You're listening to audio from Kingdom Church. If you would like to check out more information or give to our ministry, please visit us at kingdomchurch.life.
We are in week 2 of our series on fasting. Before I forget, because I definitely forgot last week to say this, we have some packets that just kind of explain what fasting is, kind of gives you a little bit of background too that you can take home. If you did not get one, I've got a couple of them in the sound booth, some extras. If I run out and you need some, I can definitely print some more. But I just wanted to make sure because I totally forgot to say that at the end of service last week. But we're in week 2. Last week we kind of talked about what fasting is. What is it not? What is and then at the end of service, most of us committed to join the youth leadership and me in 21 days of fasting. And before we jump in tonight, I just kind of want to check in. I know we had the question on the board, but just like how has the first week been? If you've committed, good, hard, yeah, it's kind of off. For some of us it's been good, some of it's hard. Here's the thing. Either way, that's okay. I don't want you to get discouraged. I had somebody come ask me on Sunday. They were like, Pastor Andrew, like I messed up the fast. Like I did what I committed not to do. They were like, what do I do now? I was like, just start again. Like start where you left off. Like that's okay. Like we're gonna mess up. We're not gonna do it perfectly. That's what we talked about last week. It's not going to be perfect, but if and when you mess up, it's okay. Just let's pick it back up. Don't put so much pressure on yourself that you're like, I just gotta quit. I'm done. Have you felt that this week at all? Yeah. Good. Well, not good, but I'm glad I'm not the only one because I felt that this week. And so tonight, I want to start with something that's a little bit uncomfortable. We're going to talk about what fasting creates in us. And something that we don't say in church very often is that there are moments in the Bible where God looks at people who are doing religious things and he says, look, hey, I don't want that. I don't want that. Not, hey, you need to do better. Not, hey, let's try a little bit harder. He's like, hey, this is not what I'm looking for. And that should mess with us a little bit. Because most of us, if we grew up in church or have any kind of frame of reference for church, most of us grew up thinking that if we just do the right spiritual stuff, like if we just pray more, if we just worship louder, or if we fast longer, then God's going to automatically be pleased. But listen to what Isaiah 58 shows us. It shows us something a little bit different. Let's look at verse 3. The Israelites, they're talking to God, and then God's going to talk to the Israelites. This is what the Israelites say. He says, why have we fasted, but you have not seen? Have you felt that this week? They ask God, we've denied ourselves, but you haven't noticed. And then God says this. He says, look, you do as you please on the day of your fast, and oppress all of your workers. You fast with contention and strife, to strike viciously with your fist. You cannot fast as you do today, hoping to make your voice heard on high. Some of y'all are like, this is in the Bible? Welcome. See, God is talking to people who are like in the middle of a fast. And so they're not ignoring him. They're not mocking God. They are actively fasting. And he says, look, this isn't the fast that I'm looking for. This is not what I'm looking for. And so here's the thing. It means that fasting by itself doesn't impress God. You can skip meals. You can not eat snacks. You can not doom scroll on social media. And you can still miss what God's after. See, God isn't rejecting fasting because fasting is bad. What he's rejecting about this fast that these Israelites are doing is they're rejecting that it's empty. They're rejecting, he's rejecting it because it's empty. And an empty fasting doesn't bring clarity. It doesn't bring freedom. It doesn't bring change. And some of us might kind of be feeling like the Israelites. And that's okay. We're going to talk about that. See, fasting that never reaches the heart isn't what God's looking for. See, some of us came into, like if we're honest, when we came into this week hoping that fasting would change your situation, whatever your situation looks like, hoping that it would change it. And God says, listen, I want to change you before I change your situation. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever tried to do something just because somebody told you to? Like have you ever just like cleaned your room? You can raise your hand, let's be honest here. Have you ever cleaned your room, not because you wanted a clean room, but because you just didn't want your parents nagging? Like you didn't want your parents getting onto you? Yeah. I appreciate the honesty. I think all of us have done that at one point or another. If we haven't, we're lying, and that's not cool. But here's the thing, like if we're going through the motions and our heart isn't in it, then what we're doing is empty. And so maybe, have you ever helped a friend? Hold up. Have you ever helped a friend because you needed help with something and you were hoping that they would offer to help you with the thing that you needed help with? Yeah, I have, 100%. Have you ever had a friend, like somebody who in one of your classes is like nice to the teacher's face, but then behind their back they're like talking crap about them? Yeah. Why do you think they do that? Yell it out. Well, yeah, they hate the teacher, but they're hoping that they think that they like them so that they'll give you a better grade, right? Like you're really just kind of looking for something. It's not really about the person. It's really what you're trying to get out of it. Have you ever had a friend post something on social media that, like something good that they've done, but then when nobody's watching, like they don't treat people the same way that they're trying to post on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok and kind of portray that they are? See, here's the thing, that happens a lot in church. And it happens so much. There's a comedian on TikTok. He's pretty funny. But he posted this video we're going to look at. It's like 30 seconds.
Are you filming?
Oh.
All right, let's just get this over with.
Hold on,
What's up,
Trevor.
Church Home? Associate Pastor Mark here, coming to you live from Los Cabos. Wanted to thank you all so much.
Here, let's start that back over.
Come on this mission
We were
trip to
not
visit
ready.
the orphanage. Now, bit of an up on this mission trip to visit the Are you filming? All right, let's just get this over with. What's up, Church Home? Associate Pastor Mark here, coming to you live from Los Cabos. Wanted to thank you all so much for giving generously to let my wife and I come on this mission trip to visit the orphanage. Now, bit of an update. Per Mexican regulations, we can only visit the orphanage one day out of the week, so we're going to see them next Monday. But on the remaining days of this 2-week trip, we're going to be on the resorts, praying for the workers, and just really diving into Mexican culture, usually via jet skis or golf. Again, thank you so much for giving for this trip. That's sounding a lot more like a vacation than it is a mission trip. You guys stay blessed.
So he's posting this video going, hey, like, we're here to work with this orphanage that's only open 1 day a week, but we're going to be here for 2 weeks, just kind of hanging out. And so, but what people do, that was just kind of an illustration, but what it does is it shows that sometimes, like, we do things not necessarily because we want to, but because of what we can get out of it. And that's exactly where the Israelites were in Isaiah 58. They weren't necessarily fasting because they wanted God. They were fasting because they wanted something from God. And so here's the reality for us today. Like, we can give up our phone, and we can still be selfish, and we can still be prideful, and we can still be disrespectful to our parents. Have anybody noticed that, like, this week, like, you're trying to fast and then you notice that you're just, like, snapping at your parents more often than you normally do? Or maybe you're like, we would never do this, but maybe you're, like, cussing out your sibling. You're like, dude, you're the worst. Some of y'all laughing because you know it's true. Here's the thing. God rejects empty fasting because he doesn't care so much about the act of fasting as much as he cares about your heart. He wants transformation. He wants to transform us, to make us more like him. And so if we are fasting just to try to get something out of it, then we're missing the point. A guy by the name of John Calvin, he once said this. He said, the only purpose of fasting is to tame the flesh so that it may be more obedient to the Spirit. Here's the reality, and what he's trying to say is that it's not fasting that makes you holy. Fasting just shows you where you're not holy. Fasting, if you're taking notes, it realigns your heart. Number one for us, fasting realigns your heart. When your heart lines up with him, that's what God honors. It's the difference between, like, I'm just skipping lunch to look spiritual, and God, I am choosing to fast because I want more of you. A couple of verses later in Isaiah 58 and verse 6, God shows that a fast, the type of fast that God loves. And it's the type where, man, it leads us to treat people with compassion and justice and humility. Let's look at Isaiah 58 verse 6. God says, isn't this the fast I chose? To break the chains of wickedness, to untie the ropes of the yoke, to set the oppressed free, and to tear off every yoke. Is it not to share your bread with the hungry, to bring the poor and homeless into your house, to clothe the naked when you see him, and not to ignore your own flesh and blood? See, what God is saying here is the type of fast that he's looking for, the type of fast that honors him, actually, like, breaks off the stuff that's holding you down inside. But, like, think about it. Fasting isn't just about taking something away from yourself. It's about making space for you to give that space to God and to the people around you. And so when you're fasting from this surrendered heart that God is looking for, your actions stop being about you, and they start becoming in alignment with God. And that's where fasting kind of gets uncomfortable. Because what it does is it shines a light on the stuff that we usually try to hide. Anybody got some pride in this place? You struggle with pride? Anybody selfish in here? Bro, that's me. If I could hold up both my feet, I would. Anybody struggle with anger? Yeah. Anybody struggle with wanting to control everything? Anybody struggle with their attitude? Bro, look, don't be pointing at people next to you. Anybody struggle with ignoring other people? Here's the thing, like when you start to remove some things, what fasting does is it shines a light on those areas. And God does that not because he's trying to shame us, but because he wants to reveal the areas that maybe we ignore so that he can help change those things in us. And that's why fasting realigns our heart. Not because like God doesn't just suddenly figure something out about you that he didn't know. But what happens is you finally figure out the things that you're struggling with about yourself. And when fasting exposes those things, it gives you the chance to hand them over to God and to let him work in your heart to change you, to grow you. And that's why fasting matters. Something else that these verses tell us is that God cares about how fasting changes the way that we interact with people. Like in these verses, God links fasting to generosity. He said, somebody's homeless, man, let's bring them into your house. Somebody doesn't have any clothes, let's put some clothes on them. They don't have any food, hey, let's give them some bread. See, this kind of fasting is the kind of fasting that God's looking for humility, for compassion. And he's saying that if your fast doesn't make you notice the people around you who are hurting, who are overlooked or struggling, man, then you're missing the point. Now, here's the part that a lot of us miss. Fasting is not about behavioral modification. And here's what I mean by this. This is like fasting is not a checklist or a self-improvement hack. So if you came into fasting and you're like, man, I just doom scroll on TikTok way too much, and so that's what I'm not going to do. But then you don't replace that time with spending time with God, and you're just like trying to fix the issue. Man, you're missing it. That's not what fasting is about. If you're fasting food and you're like, man, I'm just trying to lose weight. Like, bro, it was like 60 degrees today, making me think of spring. I just need to lose a little bit of weight before summer hits. Like if that's the reason why you're going into fasting, like, can I lovingly tell you, you're just missing the point? That's not what this is about. And that's the kind of fasting that God is saying he rejects to the people in Isaiah's time. The goal isn't to behave differently so that people notice or so that you feel better about yourself. The goal is for your heart, for your desires, for your priorities and your attention to shift off of whatever it is that has been controlling you onto God and allowing him to change you on the inside. And when that happens, man, the outside naturally flows. And so fasting isn't just about going through the motions. It's about what's happening in your heart. And God is looking for a surrendered, obedient heart that actually lines up with his purpose. But then fasting is also about what you don't see yet. And you can't talk about that kind of fasting without talking about Daniel. Anybody ever heard of Daniel before? Maybe Daniel in the lion's den? It's the same Daniel, but we're a couple of years removed from that. In Daniel chapter 10, see, we find one of the most powerful fasting moments in Scripture and also one of the most misunderstood. Daniel's not fasting because he's trying to be impressive. He's fasting because he's grieving, because he's confused. He's carrying unanswered questions. And so Daniel is older at this point. He's lived through exile. He's lived through loss and pressure and years of faithfulness. And he's seen God move before. And right now, he doesn't understand what God's trying to do. And so he does the only thing that he knows to do, and that's to fast and pray. And he humbles himself and he seeks God. Let's look at Daniel chapter 10, verse 2. It says, in those days, I, Daniel, was mourning for 3 full weeks. I didn't eat any rich food, no meat or wine entered my mouth, and I didn't put any oil on my body until the 3 weeks were over. See, here's the thing about this. Do you catch that? It says, I, Daniel, was mourning for 3 weeks. He's mourning. He's not fasting because he feels strong. He's not fasting because he's confident. He's fasting because he's weak. And so here's the thing. When we started talking about fasting, if you're like, man, I don't have my life together, like I am not in the place where I feel like I need to be to fast, that's okay. Because that's exactly where Daniel is. And then comes the hardest part. Through this chapter, Daniel prays and he fasts, and nothing happens right away. There are no answered prayers. There are no feelings. And that's where a lot of us get stuck. Can we be honest in this room? Any of y'all prayed this week and you just didn't feel anything? Yeah. Any of y'all prayed this week and still and wondered, man, God, why are you not answering what I'm praying for? Yeah, I appreciate your honesty. See, that's what happens a lot of times is we don't feel something, and so we feel stuck, and we start asking ourselves, hey, did I do something wrong? Is God ignoring me? You ever felt like that? I know I have. Is this even working? Like if I do imagine, I'm sure that's how Daniel felt. And then a little bit later in the chapter, there's this angel that appears to Daniel. And he says something shocking. Let's look at verse 12. He says, don't be afraid, Daniel. He said to me, for from the first day that you purposed to understand and to humble yourself before your God, your prayers were heard. I've come because of your prayers. See, this is the moment, if you'll leave this up for just like 30 seconds, this is the moment that reframes everything. See, the angel tells Daniel that from the very first day that Daniel humbles himself and he prays, that God heard him. Like not the 23rd day. It wasn't when God finally decided to pay attention. It wasn't like that's not what it was. Like God heard Daniel immediately, not on day 1, not 21. God was not absent. God wasn't silent. God wasn't slow. And what we're about to read is that there was something happening spiritually that Daniel couldn't see. And now I get it, because this can be comforting and it can be challenging. It can be comforting because this chapter, what it does is it shows us that our prayers aren't ignored when we're praying. Many of us raised our hands and we were like, man, there's something that I'm praying for that God just hasn't answered yet. I've been praying and I just don't feel God in these moments. And that's okay. That should be comforting, because what this shows us is that your prayers, even though you feel like that, aren't being ignored. And this can also be challenging, because it means that we've got to have faith, trusting God that even when we don't get the answers that we want or what we're looking for, that God is still working and moving. And fasting plays a role here. But it's not how we often think. See, fasting didn't make God move. Fasting didn't speed up God. Fasting didn't unlock some secret code. See, fasting helped Daniel stay humble and grounded. And it helped him stay faithful while he waited. Listen, if you're taking notes, I want you to write this down. Fasting doesn't always give you answers. Fasting doesn't always give you answers, but it gives you stability while you wait for them. See, fasting, it helps you sit with the questions instead of panicking. It helps you trust God's character when you don't understand what is going on, when you don't get God's timing. Many of you have heard this story before. But there was one year I was making a transition out of a church in Texas, and I was moving to Georgia. Well, I was moving, actually. Let me back that up. I was just moving. I had no idea where I was going, if I'm honest. And I was panicking. I'm going, God, like, what in the world? What am I supposed to do? I just knew I was leaving Texas. And so Hannah and I, we packed up our U-Haul. And then the day before we were supposed to leave, I get a call from a church. They're like, hey, like, we want to hire you. And so like literally like the day before. And so we, like, our plan, I'm panicking, I'm freaking out. Our plan was to leave Texas, drive to Georgia where my best friend lived, park our U-Haul in his driveway, and then just kind of figure it out from there. And I felt like there were no answers until God came through. And so what fasting does, it helps you sit in the waiting without panicking, because you trust God's character, because you know that God has come through, that God has not left you, he's not abandoned you, and he's going to come through, even if it doesn't look like the way that you think it's going to look like. See, fasting helps you hear God if you're taking notes. Number 2. Has anybody ever had a pair of noise-canceling headphones? Can I be honest with you? I actually haven't tried noise canceling, like true noise canceling headphones until like just a couple weeks ago. I can feel the judgment, y'all. Calm down. But here's the thing. Like, I put on some AirPods for the first time. I was just trying them with noise canceling, the AirPod Pro. So I put them in, and it was the weirdest experience of my life. Like, it's like the air got sucked out of the room. I was like, oh my goodness, like I am all alone in this room full of people that I can't hear anymore. You listen to music, and when you're listening to music with noise-canceling headphones, it doesn't make the music louder. What it does is it makes the noise around you quieter so you can hear it more clearly. And can I tell you, that's what fasting does? Fasting doesn't turn up God's volume. What it does is it turns down the noise of everything else that's going on around you. And in turn, it helps you hear God better. It doesn't add God. Look, fasting does not add God to your life. If you have surrendered your life to Christ, hear me, God is with you. He has not left you. He's already there. But what fasting does is it removes the noise so that you start to notice him even more. And this leads us to one more question that I just kind of want to wrestle with before we start to wrap up. And the question is this: what did it feel? Well, like, why did it feel like nothing was happening when Daniel was praying? See, the angel that appears to Daniel actually explains why in verse 13. We're going to look at it. Daniel chapter 10, verse 13, it says, "But the prince of the kingdom of Persia opposed me for 21 days. Anybody know how long 21 days is? You know how long Daniel fasted and didn't hear anything? 3 weeks. It says, "Then Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me after I had been left there with the kings of Persia. Now I have come to help you understand what will happen to your people in the last days, for the vision refers to those days." See, here's the thing. This is where we're going to leave this verse up, I've decided. Because this is where Daniel chapter 10 just kind of gets a little bit deeper. And I want you to be able to look at it if you don't have a Bible with you. It gets a little bit more eye-opening, because what the angel is describing is this real spiritual resistance, a conflict that was happening beyond what Daniel could see. Now, don't misunderstand what's happening here. Like, this is not, like I want you to hear me. This is not like horror movie version of spiritual warfare. This isn't, there's a demon behind every bad day that I've ever had. It's not, man, like Satan made me do. Have you ever, like, the devil made me do it? You ever heard anybody like use that excuse? Bro, that's a cop-out. Just side note, this is my soapbox. I've got a little bit of time. The devil can't be everywhere at once. And that means that the devil's probably not messing with you because, bro, the devil's got like world leaders that he's probably looking to mess with. And so hear this. And this is for me too. Stop blaming your stupidity on the devil. Like, can we just be real? Like, we're old enough to be real, right? But like, stop blaming your sinful desires on the devil. That's just a cop-out. And so what this verse is unpacking, what these verses is unpacking is that there is a spiritual realm that we don't experience with our own eyes. And this matters because, man, we've got to realize that our life it isn't just physical. And it's easy to just think, man, like my life is just all like this is it. But there's this whole spiritual realm too. And so when your prayers feel unanswered, we assume one of three things. We either assume that God doesn't care. You ever felt that before? That God just doesn't care about what you're praying for? We assume that God isn't listening. Tiberius, you ever felt like that? Or the third thing, that God isn't powerful enough. And what Daniel chapter 10 does is it challenges all three, because the delay that Daniel was experiencing wasn't because Daniel fasted wrong. It wasn't because God was distant or that he had forgotten about Daniel. There was spiritual resistance, and God is still sovereign over it. And here's where we need to be really clear. Spiritual warfare doesn't mean that everything is a battle. It doesn't mean that you're just being attacked because you skipped a day of fasting. Man, sometimes you just surrendered to your flesh. It doesn't mean that anxiety or stress or depression are always spiritual problems. Listen, sometimes they are. Sometimes they are. And sometimes our bodies just have a messed up chemical reaction that causes things. These things can be spiritual, but they're not always spiritual. And this matters. So what this means is that your prayers matter. That praying matters. That there is something happening that we can't see, It means that your obedience matters, that your faithfulness matters, even when you don't see immediate results. Because fasting doesn't give Daniel power over the situation. What it does is it positions him to stay faithful in the middle of it. And if you notice what the angel says next, he explains that he's come to help Daniel understand what's happening and what's coming next. And so sometimes God doesn't give the answer right away because he's doing something more than just fixing the moment that you're in. Do you hear that? He's shaping our perspective. He's strengthening our trust, and he's preparing us for what you'll need next. Just because life feels hard doesn't mean that God's losing. Do you hear that? Man, some of y'all's life this week has been hard. Some of y'all, I know what's been going on in your life, and it's been hard. That doesn't mean that God's losing. Just because you don't see movement doesn't mean that nothing's happening. And just because you're waiting for an answer doesn't mean that God's forgotten about you. And so the question that we come to is this: why does this matter? See, fasting matters because fasting creates something in us. And there's just a couple quick things we're going to blow through. If you're taking notes, fasting creates clarity about our identity. See, the reality is most of us, we don't just wake up asking, who am I really? But we sometimes feel that in the pressure that we experience, or the comparison that we feel, or insecurities. Or we feel that in the need to be seen. Look, Miss Hannah reminds us all the time. And when she said this, man, it really changed the way I see things. She said that your value, your identity, it isn't dependent on your productivity. Do you hear that? Some of y'all need to hear that tonight. Your value isn't in how productive you are. Your value and your identity is given to you by God. And so fasting creates this clarity because it removes the things that we have been, maybe even without us realizing it, the things that have been defining us. And so when you fast and you take away comfort and distractions, or that habit that you lean on, then at first, man, it feels uncomfortable and maybe it's even frustrating. But then you start noticing things. Have you noticed why, whatever it is you're fasting, you're like, why does it bother me so much that I don't have this thing? Or, man, why do I feel anxious without it? I was talking to somebody this week, somebody who just literally constantly listens to music nonstop. If even in school, we were talking about it last week, you just kind of cover your ear and you're listening to music in class. And they were talking to me about them just removing that and actually making room for silence. And they're like, man, I never realized how anxious it makes me. See, that's not God trying to shame that person and whatever you're facing or feeling. It's not God trying to shame you. That's God gently showing you where you've been putting your identity. Listen, fasting doesn't magically fix the insecurity that you feel. It doesn't fix whatever pain you're trying to cope with. But it does create space for truth to transform us. And when we know who we are in Christ, then everything else starts to shift. Number 2, fasting, it creates clarity about our direction. Have you ever wondered, the end of the year comes and you've got to pick classes for your next year, and you're like, what classes do I take? What do I even need to do? Have you ever asked yourself, should I get a job or not? Should I be in this relationship or not? See, we have all these questions that we're looking for direction about. And don't get me wrong, like those things, it brings pressure. But most of the time, listen, when we want direction from God, what we really want is certainty. Have you ever just been like, I just want a clear sign? Like, I just want somebody to go, Adriana, you should take that job. like you're looking for like this voice to just clearly tell you what you're supposed to do. And I mean, I know that's how I have been in different seasons. It is like we just want to be told, like I don't want to have to question or wonder or worry about it. Like, God, can you just tell me what I'm supposed to do? And so what fasting does is it creates clarity about that direction, not by giving you like this roadmap, but by slowing you down enough to stop reacting. If you're taking notes, write this down. Clarity doesn't always mean immediacy. Like it doesn't always mean, like when you gain clarity, it doesn't mean that it's always immediate. Look, sometimes God doesn't give you 10 steps ahead. Pastor Dave was talking about this on Sunday. He said, let the word be a lamp unto your feet and a light unto your path. And so sometimes God doesn't give you the next 10 steps. God just gives you the next right step. And so fasting teaches you how to walk wisely, even when the answers come slowly. Number 3, fasting, if we allow it, creates clarity about peace. Somebody tell me what you think of when you hear the word peace. What you got? Bro, you were ready. Let's go. What do you think of when you hear peace? Braden? Silence? Joy? What do you think of when you hear peace? Huh? Calm? Yeah. See, we often think, oh, you're ready. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. What do you think of? Piece of cake. Piece. You just extend it to piece of cake. What do you think? Quiet? Yeah. Yeah, a lot of times when we hear the word peace, we're like, man, I just want calm. I don't want any stress. Any of y'all ever been like, I just don't want stress? I don't want any like kind of problems. I don't want any pressure. And we think that's what peace is the absence of those things. But peace isn't the absence of problems. Peace is the presence of trust in the one who can bring us through those that pressure and problems. See, but most of us, can we be honest? Do we actually like deal with the stress? Most of us, we don't deal with the stress, right? Like we just kind of cope. We find out ways to distract ourselves. And so we watch 7 seasons of Stranger Things in like 2 days. Or like we were talking about earlier, maybe you're like the student I was talking to the other day, and man, you just can't go without not listening to music or a podcast or whatever it is. Like man, we try to numb the discomfort. But the kind of peace that God's trying to create in us is a peace that allows you to sit with the discomfort instead of running from it. Like God wants you to start praying about it instead of trying to numb it. And lastly, look, fasting creates clarity about conviction. And I get it, that word conviction, it can feel heavy. It can sound like guilt or shame, or it can sound like we're getting in trouble. But listen, biblical conviction is not condemnation. Conviction is clarity. Conviction is this. It'll be on the screen. Conviction is when God lovingly points out something that's pulling you away from Him, not to crush you, but to lovingly lead you back. And so most of us, we stay so distracted, and we never slow down long enough to notice what's actually shaping us. And conviction is God saying, hey, this isn't good for you. And fasting creates that space where we can hear God clearly. And when you take away the distractions, it allows you, and it allows you to hear God go, hey, that's not good for you. And as God reveals those things, he's not doing them just to point it out or to make you uncomfortable. He's doing that so he can heal what you're trying to numb and cover up. He's trying to restore you, and that's where real growth happens. See, maybe some of you have already noticed some things that are pulling you away from God. Maybe this week of fasting has really revealed some things. You notice the sin that you've treated as insignificant, or the selfish habits or the distractions that control your heart. And man, maybe you've begin to feel the nudge and you've started to respond differently. See, conviction helps us stop making decisions based on what's normal or what's popular or what feels good right now. And it helps us to start making decisions based on, man, what is pulling me closer to God? What is pulling me away from God? What is shaping who I'm becoming? And so here's the thing. Conviction makes you more aware of what's forming you. And what God is inviting you into is to let that go so that you can live freer. And that's maturity. That's growing spiritually. That's learning to let God shape your life rather than the world shape your impulses. And so before we close, I just want to challenge you. We're not taking notes anymore. Just look at me. This is you, me. I just want to challenge you to do something a little bit different than last week. We're still fasting, don't get me wrong. But in this week, I want you to pick one part of your week where life is normally loud. Maybe it's doom scrolling or watching YouTube or filling every moment of your day. Like some of you don't know what to do with a free schedule. Like you've packed your life so much. Hey guys. Hi. Like you have packed your life so much that you don't feel like you have room for God. And instead of filling that space with noise, I just want to ask you to pause, to notice your thoughts, to notice the cravings. Notice where God might be speaking to you. See, here's the thing. Fasting isn't about instant answers. It's about preparing your heart to recognize God's presence even when you don't see immediate results. Will you stand to your feet? Join hands across the aisle. We're going to close out in prayer. Let's pray. God, we thank you for tonight. God, I just pray that you would realign our hearts with yours. That God, as we are fasting, as we are trying to create space to recognize you, that Lord, that we would lay aside the distractions. God, like your word says in Isaiah 58 that we were reading earlier, that the fasting that you're looking for is the kind that just breaks the chains of the sin and the things that are holding us back. And so, God, I just pray that you would reveal those in our lives, not to make us uncomfortable or to shame us, but God, so that you would make us more aware, so that you can start chiseling those things away, so that we can live a life that's completely and totally surrendered to you. God, I thank you for what you're doing in and through our lives. Pray that you would just continue to be with these students who are fasting, who are committing to just make space so that they become more aware of your presence in their lives. God, we thank you, and it's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.